Hello my gorgeous makeup loving friends, welcome back to another Swatching Sundays. This is a weekly episode in which I take a makeup product and I swatch it across lots of different lighting conditions so that you can get an accurate indication as to what this would actually look like and how it would perform. In addition to that, over the last couple of weeks, I've kind of made some little modifications, shall we say. So I check to see these products in terms of their staining, but I also check them in terms of their blendability and their performance with existing eyeshadow bases, etc. So I'm also looking as to how these shadows would blend together, what it would look like when you're layering these particular things. So that's my whole spiel as to what this episode is. But the palette in question today is the Adept Cosmetics Minka palette. I know, I have no self-restraint, I can't help it. It is absolutely so gorgeous. So I'm obviously looking at this across lots of different lighting conditions, and can I just say, we actually had some sunshine, so we get to see this in sunlight. It's very exciting. So if you want to see what this looks like, what it performs like, and get my overall first impressions, then this is the video for you. Do please keep on watching. So this is the newly imagined Minka palette. It has a couple of the previous shades, but with a new formulation. When we're looking at this, their typical way of doing a palette like this is providing about a third of it as mattes and the rest are shimmers. Normally I like a half and half, but I make a weird exception when it comes to Adept because honestly, their shimmers are ridiculous. So let's get into it. So we have our first 4 shades here, and I will say the kind of duochromes, there's a slight grit to them, although the first one here, Eliza, that feels a little bit more gel-based in terms of its formulation. When you're looking at it on the camera there, it's coming off as a little bit more yellow, but to me, I see a sort of a pale pink and a little bit of green. This shade here, Anna, I mean, it's so beautiful. There's like a gunmetal to it, but then there's bits of pink, and you can kind of see the pink here, but hopefully in some more lighting conditions we'll get there. This is a little bit more standard. It's Emma. It's quite almost like an antique gold sort of a shade, and then this beautiful matte Toya. So we have Eliza, like Eliza Doolittle, Anna. I mean, they're so sparkly, they're gorgeous. Emma and Toya. As per usual, I'm going to build these up to full opacity so we can get a good idea as to what they look like. So we now have a mix of mattes and sort of metallics. This shade here, Maya, definitely has a lot more grit in it. It's sort of that standard metallic. The shade Dana then, or Dana, I suppose, depending upon where you are. We'd pronounce it as Dana here in Ireland. Much drier than the previous one. Joshua, again, a little bit more of a gel-like formula, and Ilana is not quite as dry as Dana. So let's see what these look like when they're applied. There's Maya, so you can kind of see there, it's kind of a sparkly, almost glittery formula. There's Dana, I'm going to call it Dana. Not a lot of colour in that. Have to do another pass. But it is buildable, so we'll give it that. There's Joshua. Oh, that's beautiful, isn't it? That's like an extraterrestrial shade. And Elana, or Elena, I'm assuming it might be Elena. Apparently, I can't pronounce names. That's a great day for me. We have our next 4 shades, and I will say the formulas across all of these are that little bit smoother. Don't mind the fact that I have glitter fallout. It is just what occurs here. The shade Linda, we've kind of seen these shades before, doesn't make it any less gorgeous, but it's a yellow to green, and there's a little bit of like a pink purple shade in here. This is more of a standard metallic. It's the shade Clara. Then we have the shade Mia, or Maya, I suppose, depending again upon how you're pronouncing things. There's a sort of a yellow here, like a pale yellow gold, but then a little bit of a pinky orange shift, and then just quite a nice deep matte in the shade of Maria. So this is Linda. I mean, look at that. That is gorgeous. I mean, I will say I buy Adept because of their special shades. I can't help it. This is Clara. Ooh, beautiful. We then have Mia and Maria. Mia and Maria. And we now have our last 3 shades. This one, Sandra, is more of a gel-based formula. We have the shade Ariana, which is more of a matte. Now this one, Ava, it's not even a grit, but there was a little bit of resistance when swatching. I was trying to do a swirling motion and it felt like my finger was catching, so it was kind of tricky to get that one. I haven't kind of come across a formula quite like that, so it's quite unusual for me. Even the shade here, Sandra, there's more of like a silver toned gold with a little bit of pink in that, and then the shade Ava is more of like that antique kind of metally, I don't know how to describe it, like oh god, you know the oh god, I can't even think of the word, but there's a subgenre of kind of like sci-fi, etc. It's like cowboyish. Oh, steampunk, that's it. Be trying to pronounce words and remember words. It's sort of like a steampunk colour, which is really unusual. So we have Sandra, then there's Ariana. The mattes do take a little bit of work. I don't mind that, it shows it's buildable. And then we have Ava. Now I do want to point out here that I have some staining on my fingers and quite a bit of glitter. So we'll see what the story is when we're actually getting to the removal process as to whether or not it stains, because sometimes I just find with the way that I'm entering into the pans that it kind of stains the fingers, but it's nothing that's actually quite permanent. So let's actually remove this and see what the story is. As you guys know, at the moment I have a ring light at a 90-degree angle and I have 2 box lights. I have no other sources of light in this room, and this is what it looks like. It is so beautiful, very pinky toned. It's kind of beautifully springy. Oh my goodness, I think it's beautiful. But obviously I've bought it, so I'm going to have to think it's beautiful. It'd be a bit rubbish if I had bought something and then just sat here going, no, I don't like it. I will say I'm a little bit annoyed with Adept because they have a new palette coming out. It's called the Emo palette, and how dare they? Because it looks beautiful and I need them to calm down because I can't be buying all of their stuff. Like, that's ridiculous. But this is so beautiful. And here I don't have a huge amount of lights on, but I feel like the mattes are still performing pretty darn well. You can still see some of the shifts in the special shades, so it's pretty good. Now obviously our next condition is with some extra lights, so let's pay some extra attention to the mattes in that condition. We are now absolutely swimming, if not bathing in light. So I have an overhead light on here as well. And let's again look at those mattes, because there are some paler ones like Toya and Dana are much lighter in shade, but I feel like they're still coming across pretty darn well. They're not like true pastels, but they are much kind of paler than the others. I will say, yes, there aren't a lot of mattes. There's 5 mattes in a 15 pan palette. However, those mattes have been selected pretty darn well, in my opinion, to work with the corresponding shimmers. Like, you could even do a matte look with just those alone and you wouldn't really need to go into another palette, which is kind of oppressive in and of itself. And I do feel, again, the shimmers obviously aren't like popping as much as you would expect them to, but they still look quite nice. Let's start to remove some of the light again, just to get some further info. We now have a singular source of light and it's from the ring light just above at a 90-degree angle. And again, you can see those shimmers are performing pretty darn well. It's not going to be as impressive as obviously the next stage, but this is like what it would look like if people are taking photos of themselves, etc. It's not like wildly naturalistic, but I know that some people do like to buy these palettes with the intent and purposes of things like photographs. So this is what it would probably look like for you, at least under a ring light with no other type of sources of light. I've all external lights blocked off, but my favourite bit is coming up now, which is where we just make it all dark and look at the shadows under a torchlight. It's very exciting, it's very romantic, and I love it. So I have blocked off all sources of light and now I just have this torchlight here, and look at the gorgeous shimmers. Look at that. There's just something about the Adept formula. The way that they do their shimmers is just beautiful. Like, I want to show you some of those. These are very wearable, everyday shades. Like, let's be real. I feel like this is great for people who wanted to try something a little bit different, but didn't want to go like crazy in terms of their color story. This is a nice way to introduce that. Look at the sparkles. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. I am justifying this purchase to myself, so, just smile and nod along and be like, okay, Teresa, we're delighted for you. Isn't it great that you've made a purchase that you're happy with? I'm going to say something really strange here. Do you know what this reminds me of in terms of a colour story? So bear with me. Do you remember, and I mean this is an old one that I'm referencing here, do you remember Huda when they did, was it their Desert Rose palette? It kind of reminds me a little bit of that. Just from certain angles, like the gold and the sort of pinky shades. I'm not saying it's a dupe by any means, but it's just kind of reminding me of that. And I kind of appreciate that. I mean, look at that. You tell me that that's not beautiful. Go on, try. You can't. Do you know why? Because you're a good person and you don't lie. And I appreciate that about you. Is this necessarily a need palette? I mean, I don't think so. I don't think there's really any palettes that any one particular person needs. Can I talk about that shade up here at the top? There's a really cool holographic-iness to it. It's a shade, which one was it? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm 4, 5. I swear I cannot count, lads. This is terrifying. Shade Linda up there at the top. My goodness. How interesting is that? Again, I'm going to try and twist my arm. But it's so interesting. There's a little bit of a holographicness to it. But yeah, that's it anyways, shown on the Canon. I'm going to show you this obviously now on my phone. It's an iPhone 14 and we'll have a little gawk at that. And this is what it looks like on a camera phone. Obviously, I can do the standard thing here of zooming in and going, ooh, look at sparkles, which is what a lot of people have a tendency to do. Obviously, nobody wears things like this to have people get right up into their personal space. Unless you do, in which case, fair enough. I won't judge. Personally, I like several feet between myself and another person. Maybe it's the, dormant Catholic in me, and I'm reserving space for the Holy Spirit. Who knows? Maybe it's the autistic in me who's like, gross, physical contact, hard to know. But I want to talk about that shade up at the top right hand corner. It's that shade Linda. I know I talked about it previously, but I need us all to look at it. This is reminding me of what I feel like a 1970s shadow would look like. If you asked, what was the 1970s like, or even the 80s? Maybe this is like on the cusp, 1979, 1980. It's so much fun. Also, there's a little bit of Christmas in there. Look at that, it's so cool. That's amazing. I've never seen a shade like that. That is truly very different. That shade down there, that lovely kind of pale shade, that's gorgeous. I need to see what that looks like when it's topped on top of something else. Because, the lovely Terry did kind of give me some advice on that, and I've been doing that, and I really feel like it's helpful. That shade Joshua, can I just say, beautiful. And I'm wondering what that would be like as a highlighter. I wonder if I could just dab that on, because obviously I've built that up to full opacity. Would it leave much of a cast? That is so pretty. Let's do the weird thing. Da, 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 da. Yeah, that is gorgeous. Oh, see, this is how Adept gets me. Beautiful. And I know, not a lot of mattes, but those mattes all make sense with this. Do you know what I mean? It feels like it's curated well. Anyways, let's have a gawk at this in other circumstances. So I'm just standing in the hallway of my house where there's no direct sunlight. There's sunlight just there, but we're not in it. And this is obviously what it's going to look like on a day-to-day wearing. This shade Linda up at the top, the one that I'm obsessed with. You can see even here how it shifts. You can't see the holochrome magnetic-y gorgeousness there, but you still see it's interesting even in this light, which is kind of cool. That shade Joshua, I'm a little bit obsessed with it. I think it's really, really cool. But the rest of them are more coming off as metallics. You don't see the true specialness of them in this particular lighting. So if this is the sort of lighting you're kind of dealing with on a day-to-day basis, just beware. This is probably what it's going to look like. Not a bad thing, but just let's be realistic about things. Now, I don't want you to get overexcited, but it does look like there might be some actual sunlight outside. I'm excited, you're excited. I may have prayed to several gods to make this happen, but there you go. Anyways, at the moment, I'm just standing at the window in a very awkward way, hoping that no neighbours pass by wondering, what is she doing? I don't know how I'll explain the fact that I've covered myself in stripes of eyeshadows. I mean, I've probably done stranger things in their eyes, but there you go. Anyways, you can kind of see these are more metallic here. It's not giving you that amazingness that we saw under the darker light conditions, but it is still quite nice. It's a very cohesive colour story. But let's run outside before the sunshine leaves us, because this is Ireland, and probably in the next 10 minutes, it's going to start raining again, because we get at least 4 seasons in one day, and I think we might have a magical, mystical 5th season that no other country knows about. But that's for the scientists to discover. So we have some actual direct sunlight, and I've one of my stray bees. That's Ed O. And another stray bee is on her way. That is Torty. Yes. I will feed you in a moment. Can we just look at the eyeshadows, please? Look, this is it in direct sunlight. It's very exciting. Do you see what I mean? I call him Ed because he looks a bit rough and he's ginger, but he has the heart of a poet, like Ed Sheeran. But this is so pretty. Almost as pretty as Torty. She's so gorgeous. So, I mean, we're back to kind of regular content, I suppose, to some degree. Beautiful. Very sparkly. Sparkle, sparkle. Yes, exactly, Torty. Do you enjoy the commentary from the cats? Look at these. So, if you live in a sunny climate, Adept may be the one for you. It's wasted on me here in Ireland, but look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Even that shade Linda is really starting to kind of show itself there. It is wonderful. I enjoy it. No, come back, sunlight, come back. See what I mean about how it just like leaves intermittently? Anyways, I'm going to flip over now to a mobile phone so that you can see what it looks like there. And in a matter of seconds, the sunshine has gone, but you can see this is a really pretty pinky, almost little vibes of green in here as well. It's a really pretty palette. Edda's like, maybe if I get closer to her, it will remind her that she has only fed me twice this morning, and it is 10 a.m, and that is not good enough. Fair, Ed, fair. He's going to write a strongly worded letter to the ISPCC. Oh, the sun is back, the sun is back. Let us not get too, oh, sparkle, sparkle. Oh, be nice to each other, guys. They're normally best friends, but I think they're a little bit confused about why they're not getting fed immediately. Anyways, oh, guys. She's like, I submit. Anyways, not the point. Look at that. Did you want cat content? Sorry. This is my channel. Do you see what I mean about how the light just goes in and out? We can have nothing nice here. Ooh, it's back. By the way, it is quite cold outside, in case you're wondering. It just looks like it's nice, but it's actually cold. So it's confusing, and this is why we're all sick. Anyways, that's what it looks like. Let's see what it's like in terms of the staining, because that's our next condition. The next thing that I'm interested in here is actually the staining. Now, I've since washed my hands, but I do have a little bit of staining on my fingers. Nothing major, but let's see what this is like just using a cleansing wipe first. Now, bearing in mind, cleansing wipes are obviously not the best way to take off any sort of makeup, but I'm aware that quite a few people use it, hence me doing it this way. I'm all about using your oils, your balms, etc. Get the proper cleansing in there. Now, there's a little bit of staining in some areas. It's a little bit hard to budge, but nothing that I think a good bar of soap isn't going to sort. So it does look like we're pretty okay in terms of staining. So I'm going to go and wash this off, and obviously our next bit is all about blending. So I have since washed my arm and it looks like we have no issue when it comes to staining. I'm going to put a little bit of white primer down. You know me, I'm loving my MAC Sink to a Whisper. It's just my absolute favourite, and particularly when we're looking at a couple of mattes here that are much lighter in colour, I figured this would make a lot of sense to include, just so we get a little bit more information. Now, we don't have a lot of mattes here that we're looking at in terms of their blending, but we might as well do our due diligence and make sure that we're looking at them properly. And I also want to see how some of these layer along with those gorgeous shimmers. Because I mean, while we're here, while we have the primers, why not do it? Do you know what I mean? Like, let's just be smart on that. So I have a few brushes next to me. I'm going to use this Juvia's Place one, and what I think I'm going to go into is maybe the shade Maria, because I'm a little bit mean, and it's a deep dark purple. Now, what I normally do is kind of pat it off onto something to disperse it first. So I want to kind of give it the most accurate way that I tend to look at these. So let's see what the story is in terms of just patting that on initially. And I'm being, by the way, very lazy. This is not like a packing brush, this is a blending brush. But look at that, nice diffusing. By the way, part of why I do it this way is to make sure that I get an even coating of the shadow. And look at how easily that blends. And that's a purple. Normally you'll get a little bit of streaking, but this is looking pretty darn good. Or at least I think it is. Feel free to disagree and be like, no, Teresa, I think you're foolish. Which honestly, that's a bit mean. This is my channel. Do you have to come over here and be so mean? Do you? And obviously this is not eyelid skin. It's going to be a lot more textured, etc. Not that I have a lot of hair or whatever on the back of my arms, but still we do have to remember that. But look at the way that it's blending there on the edges. It's pretty nice, and I haven't kind of blended to any major degree. Like, I haven't spent a million years on this, so I'm quite happy with that. I do want to be an extra bit of a bitch, because I mean, why not? I have my P. Louise here, and I'm going to go into the shade Dana or Dana, depending upon if you're Irish or not. Again, in Ireland we call it Dana. We actually have a singer that went to Eurovision called Dana. Odd woman, but there you go. So let's just stamp that out there and see how that is blending with that purple. Am I blending with reckless abandon? Yes, I am, but I want to see if we're going to get any sort of harshness here. And it looks like it's blending pretty well. And I've tried from dark to light here, so it looks like that is working pretty well. I want to see now if I go from light to dark, what the story is. Like, what's the best way of blending those? Or is there a best way? Maybe like both will work out. But that seems to blend pretty nicely. We're not having any majorly harsh corners there or harsh pieces, which is nice. Okay, just add a little bit more, just to be certain. And that does seem to be blending pretty well, at least to me here. And isn't that all that really matters? I'm going to take the shade Toya now, and I just have another P. Louise one here, and I'm just going to pop that onto the hand because, like I said, I like to kind of coat the brush. And I'm starting now with the lighter shade. I want to see what the story is here, and just packing it on. Blendy, blendy, blendy. That's lovely. That's such a pretty shade. Very spring toned colours, which I'm personally quite happy with. I quite like these. It's blending quite nicely, no majorly harsh lines. I will say again, this is my method of blending these days. I did not come up with this. My friend Daniela showed me how to do this, and I feel like it's really helped me in terms of my blending, just to coat things a little bit more easily and have things be a little bit more even, because I'm always looking for like little workarounds. Do you know what I mean? So obviously, like where I'm packing it on, I'm getting the most colour, but I want to see how it's blending out here. And it seems to be doing pretty well. No major issues there in terms of blending. Like, yeah, obviously we have the darker here and the lighter here. So it's buildable, it's blendable, it disperses. Great, delighted about that. Now let's take another deep colour. I'm going to go with the shade Ariana. And I have an Adept Cosmetics brush here, which I really like. I can't remember. Oh, that came as part of the Metamorphosis collection. It's really cute. So I'm just going to pack that on there like that. And blend. So just see what the story is here. That is definitely, I think, because of the shade, just overpowering the previous shade. But just good to know what the story is there. But that's blending really easily. But it does look like you can blend from light into dark and dark into light. So that is good to know. Or maybe it's just me. Feel free to be like, no, Teresa, I don't care about any of this. Honestly, fair. Fair, fair, fair. Now, next big thing that I probably want to look at. I'm going to take another bit of the shade Dana here and just kind of pop it on. Because I want to see what it's like to layer these. Look at how different that looks now. Isn't that wild? It's like a totally different shade. That's so cool. So they obviously mix and blend really well, so that's great. Bit of versatility there. You know me, I like that. I am going to be a B1TCH. I want to go into the shade Linda because I'm obsessed with it. And I just want to see if I tippity-tappity that on. Is it going to totally overpower? Or can I blend that out with another brush? I have a Jessup here. It's a 228 Luxe Crease. So let's see if I can blend that out on top of that. Or is it going to like totally overpower? No harm if it does. Like, I just want to know. Oh, that's nice. So you can make that more of like a shimmer than a hardcore sort of holochrome, which is nice. Okay, I'll be interested to see what that's like when I, what do you call it? What's the word? Brain gone completely. When I put that under deeper lights. I have another Juvia's Place. I'm just going into the shade Maria, which is the deep dark shade again. I want to have a little look at that. I know I've only swatched or done 4 out of the 5 mattes, but I figure that's enough, isn't it, lads? Like, I mean, you don't need more than that, do you? That seems like a little bit unnecessary. Like maybe you're being a bit greedy, asking me to do all of these. Should I do another one? Just to see. Yeah, I should. I'll do my due diligence and do the last matte that I haven't looked at yet. Nice blending there. Nothing massively problematic. The one matte that I didn't look into was the shade Elena. And let's see what the story is there and how they mix together. Ooh, that is nice. By the way, I'm using an Adept Cosmetics brush, in case you're wondering. It came as part of the Phoenix collection. I really like it. It's such a nice shape. And I've washed it many times. So there we go. That blends nicely. I want to, which one will I do? Joshua. I want to use the shade Joshua because that's so interesting. And I want to see if I pop that on top, what's that going to be like? Now, I don't want to blend that. I want to keep that as it is and see what the story is there, to the degree to which that transforms things. And I have the shade Mia here. Oh, it's like, why not? While I'm here, let's do a few of these. And pop that on top here. See what that looks like. Now, I will blend that one out just to see. Make it a little bit more natural looking. If that's what you're looking for. I'm loving that one. That's gorgeous. And Eliza. I haven't looked at the shade Eliza. Oh, that's gorgeous. Oh, beautiful. It looks quite a bit like Joshua when it's done like that. So that's quite interesting. Again, I think I might blend that one out just to see what the story is. Because it's my channel and I can do what I like. Let's see. That's pretty. And then what one will I do last? Because I mean I have some more space on my arm, so why not? I'm going to take the shade Ariana and I'm going to pop that there. It'd help if you could see. There we go. We'll get there. We'll get there in the end. And pop that there. Again, blending absolutely no problem. So that's great to see. I might use one of the more metallic-y, glittery shades. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to be really weird. I'm going to use 2 metallic-y, glittery shades. I've totally lost the run of myself. I'm going to use Emma and I'm going to use Maya, and I want to see what they look like when they're blending in towards each other. And again, I'm going to use another little blendy brush. This is my P. Louise, and just go back and forth. Granted, you'll do this with more precision, but that's not too bad. So that's what these look like when they're blended out. No issue in terms of blending. And I used a couple of different brushes like Juvia's Place, Beauty Bay, Adept Cosmetics, P. Louise, Jessup. So a range of brushes, they all seem to work quite well on them. What I'm going to do now is just turn off the lights so we can see what this looks like in a very kind of dispersed situation, because this is kind of how you would naturally probably wear these. So there we go, like this is how you would probably wear. Do you know what this is reminding me of? Sorry, I'm so excited looking at this. This reminds me of like Sea Beauty. You know how they swatch theirs and it just has that beautiful unearthly shimmery, it's gorgeous. Look at that shade Joshua there and the way that's layered. Oh my god. Like, isn't that beautiful, or is that just me? So obviously you can see they blend really, really well. They layer really nicely. Even the shimmers mesh with each other really well. Look at that shade Linda on top of that. That's so interesting. Ugh. And they're not built up like the way that I was doing, obviously, the previous condition, but I do hope this gives you a little bit more clarity as to how you might wear these. I do feel, and this is just my own thoughts, that a lot of the looks are going to end up looking quite similar. And that's because obviously you're very tied in terms of the mattes that you have, and some of the shades look similar-esque. Like even when I was putting Eliza on and Joshua, you could see there was that little bit of green, but I do think, see, Joshua's kind of the one there up at the top for you guys. Yes, and then the one with Eliza is down at the bottom, so near my wrist, and I do feel they look distinct enough, at least to me, that I can see a difference in it. However, to somebody who wouldn't be as into these things, I don't think they'll see enough of a difference. So do keep that in mind. You know, we have to make some informed choices, but it does look so beautiful. Oh, gorgeous. Anyways, let's come together and have a little chat about all of this and what I thought of it. I have to say, I'm just delighted that I got actual sunlight. It's so rare these days, but I did somewhat plan to film today based upon the fact that there was going to be sunshine. So there you go. You also got to see some of my stray cats. They've adopted me or I've adopted them. It's hard to know. Anyways, in terms of this palette, I think the big thing that I want to talk about is the fact that you are, let's going to be 100% real, a little bit limited with what you can do. Their colour story, it's 15 shadows, but 5 of those are mattes, so it's going to mean that a lot of your looks are going to look the same. Now for me, I don't really mind because I'll also dip into some other palettes. The other thing that they've done is they've kind of changed around their palette so that you can pop those pans out, and with their newer designs you can basically mix and match, so you can add in some mattes from other palettes. They've kind of done a Natasha Denona on this. The shimmers, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. I think a few of them would look similar-ish on the eye, but that's just me being extremely pedantic, right? Because let's be real, I don't want to gush over things unnecessarily. The price point, I mean, it's an expensive palette, let's be 100% real. I personally think it's worth it, particularly with all these like little modifications that they've done. I think it's stunning. Yeah, it's one of those ones that it looks more spectacular, obviously, depending upon the lighting that you have. And if this is going to be like for an office job, etc., I don't know. I don't know how much use you would necessarily get out of that. It's going to depend as to you and your personality. Because personally, I'd wear the F out of this to an office and have done. But yeah, the blendability, perfect. No major issues there. Personally, I would like a few more mattes, but that's just me being me. And I feel like they've changed up their matte formula, so it's a lot better than it was in the past. That being said, their mattes are nowhere near as good as those shimmery special shades. But it's because those are so good that you're like, okay, these are still very good mattes, but when comparing, you're like, oh, okay. So personally, I don't mind as much that they don't have as many mattes. I'm fine with dipping into other palettes, but again, for some people, that may not be the thing for them. I'm hoping this is again giving you a little bit of clarification as to what this palette looks like, what it performs like, and maybe, just maybe, you have some shadows in your collection that are very similar to this. So it means that you may not necessarily need to go off and get this. I say this all the time, but in makeup, there's very little that is a quote-unquote need. It's a want, and that's totally fine, and that's totally valid, but I do want to help you make some more informed decisions so that you don't go off and run and buy things unnecessarily that you're just not going to end up using. But for me, I like this, but I'm a collector. I love these sorts of things. This is like my little happy joy place. But my gorgeous friends, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Do please like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on your notification bells simply because it's polite, and do please share because sharing is caring, except of course for STDs, in which case just wrap it up. Don't be gross, but I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.